Welcome to the Insights channel. And today, in our section Encontros, we have a very special guest. Who is here to speak to us is Dr. Prashant Kakoday. Prashant is a medical doctor based in Cambridge, in the United Kingdom, with background in ENT surgery and integrated health. He has spent the past 35 years of his life exploring the riddle of human consciousness. And he has traveled extensively all over the world. He has written many books, many papers, has given lectures in many institutions, different countries. And so it's our honor to have you here, dear Dr. Prashant, to speak with us today. Most welcome.
It's a pleasure, a great pleasure, and thank you for the invitation.
So I know you since some years already. And really one thing that stands out when someone has the opportunity of knowing you is your level of stability. And I would even say stability and detachment. But at the same time, you are such a loving person and kind of has this art of keeping an eye and embracing everyone around you. And so my first question to you is exactly about this aspect of stability, because I really feel it's such an important thing in a life which has become so complex. We have so many challenges every day. So what is the way or how to deal with all these challenges without really being affected inside? This is my first question to you.
Yes, and hello, Patricia, and thank you for the introduction. Very flattered. And as you mentioned in your introduction, that you notice in me some detachment and love. And within that is an answer to what you are mentioning. What happens with everyone, they have made their life very complex unnecessarily. And when life becomes complex, to solve it is more difficult. Simple is beautiful, something that is uh, easy, to deal with. And in this, as if we have to do the homework, last minute, we cannot say, I don't want to get involved in this. Some homework is necessary. And homework in what? We need to become free. Like, for example, if there is a web, if someone gets caught in the web, then his life is difficult. More he gets caught, it is difficult. And to get trapped is the worst punishment. A prison and all is justice, the worst punishment in many countries. Here we find ourselves creating our own, bondages. We get trapped just by creating expectations. Like, for example, right now here with the computers and all, the moment I create an expectation that something should work at the right time, some light should come at the right time, some person will arrive at the right time. The moment I create an expectation, I as if give power to the other person. My life becomes more complicated. I get trapped. As far as possible, we have to see, can I drop the expectation? When I'm without expectation, there is acceptance. I am accepting. You know, in fact, this world that we are dealing with, world in front of us, it is not in my hands. And since it is not in my hands, to create any expectation is so senseless. The nice spiritual message is be prepared for the unexpected. First message is that be prepared for the unexpected. And having got that right, then involve yourselves and plan yourselves, everything. And you will find life is a lot simpler because you remain free.
I think that your last book is called In Search of Truth. And one of the things that you have been mentioning is about these expectations. And I think that the world nowadays is full also of illusions, expectations, illusions. We live this era of the post-truth and the fake news and everything. So when you write this book, In Search of Truth, what is truth? And what is reality for you?
Sure. It is nice, and even philosophers try to answer this, like Plato. He makes a beautiful statement there. He says, to know truth, I need a philosophical intellect. He uses the word nous, an implied higher intellect to understand nous, to understand truth. And the reason is ordinarily I rely upon my senses to know the truth. The whole science institution relies on the senses. And so when my senses become the basis of understanding truth, it would have been great if senses were reliable, but senses don't give me the right information. For example, senses don't tell me that this planet Earth is moving at a speed of 30 kilometers per second. We all are zooming through space at this enormous speed. Senses don't tell me this. This is the major thing that is happening. Senses don't tell me that this body is made of atoms and atoms are 99.99999% vacuum, which means this body is largely vacuum. The senses don't tell me. Senses give me wrong information. Senses don't tell me if I wake up in the morning and see the sun rising. Senses don't tell me that Earth is going around the sun. Senses tell me that sun is going around the Earth. So to rely upon the senses for our truth is not the best foundation. Senses give me wrong information. As a result, the whole institution of science is not the basis for us to know the truth because they rely upon the senses. And then in time, I might know more, but the process is flawed from the beginning. That's why Plato says we need to use nous. Nous is like a higher intellect, and we can say the spiritual sight is required to know this. And when you start seeing from that higher intellect, we all have it. That's why Plato said this. But just like muscles, if the person don't use the muscles, those muscles remain weak. If he uses the muscles, they become strong. So if this nose is not used, it remains weak. Some of the meditation methods are aimed to make the spiritual intellect stronger. And then with that spiritual intellect, I am able to see the bigger map and the world beyond the physical. And you see the complete picture. And that is like the good start. And then your question of what is truth, when seen from the higher position, you realize that we can say whatever that is changeless and endless, something that exists and it doesn't just disappear, that we will have to consider as the starting position of truth. Something that disappears, just say some image comes in front of the sky and disappears. I can't say that is part of the truth. Truth is something that is there, tomorrow, and that is there day after tomorrow. So in this context, whatever that is eternal, that is the first criteria for including in the department of truth.
So as you have said before, some homework is necessary, to be able to really be able to catch this dimension of truth or this dimension of reality, which is beyond what our senses are able to perceive. And how to develop oneself in such a way that you can sustain this broader perspective or reality, which kind of homework, which kind of practice we should do to be able to sustain this perspective in our life, even whilst you see doing your actions or involved in your business, in your day-to-day life.
Sure. One simple thing is just creating some time, maybe say 2 minutes, where one is reflecting on what it means eternal, what it means infinity. Try to grapple these kind of aspects, eternity. And by doing this, we are as if stretching our intellect. Intellect is able to see the bigger map. As opposed to, for example, if a person is so used to thinking about, minutes and seconds and minutes and seconds, suddenly he is told there are years and centuries. He says, centuries, what is that? It is like you want to grapple. There is another year and so many hours and so many seconds. It is like it stretches him a little bit. If he is not used to thinking in those words. When you go to different countries, you start seeing things differently. Just dimensions change. Even what people eat, they just eat, small portion of coffee is for one place is one, and another place, small portion is a different size altogether. The dimensions are different, they think differently. So also here, our the intellect need to grapple eternity. Eternity means it is like centuries, millions, billions, it is beyond that. And just to grapple what it means, eternity. In front of eternity, even billion years is like a small time. It is seconds. So you are just playing with it in infinity, beyond limits, world beyond limits to grapple. And then I am able to see this physical world in a new light. Otherwise, our ordinary intellect, ordinary consciousness is so caught up into these petty things. Small, small things have become so big for us in this lower consciousness. And to come out of it, we need something different. For example, if suddenly right now something touches this finger and I get pain for 5 seconds, I say, okay, but I forget it. After 5 seconds, it is there. I know it is going to go, and I get on with my life. I don't think of it at all. I don't remember it. But for another person, those 5 seconds may become so big. He can't forget it. He thinks about it. He writes it in his diaries. he got, he talks about it. It has become such a big issue for him. I'm exaggerating it, but it is. Imagine someone does like this. It is the same when I'm seeing the bigger scale of reality on the scale of eternity. Someone is having a difficult life for 10 years. He says it is like 5 seconds. 10 years, what is the big deal there? Because he sees things on a different scale altogether. And as a result, he remains light about things. He doesn't get caught into pettiness. If he loses sight of the big map, then 10 years, it is like the whole life for him. 10 years. But when you have this intellect that can see eternity, you start even discovering eternal things. You discover because your now eyes are seeing what exists. Just as person who has come out of the pettiness, he starts seeing the sky and then he sees the stars. Until then, he has no time to see the stars. He's caught into some petty things. So also here, once your scale has changed, you see things that exist at that level, eternal things. And at that level, you also discover eternal you. So that becomes a very necessary discovery of the true self. When you are in the dimension of truth, you discover the true self. When my intellect is not grasping this, even if I may read books and all, but my intellect doesn't see it because I'm seeing things at a different level. I miss out on the truth and the true self.
Very interesting. It's not enough to have the information or to have the knowledge, but you really have to practice it so that you change your perception of things, no? I was just thinking whilst you were speaking about this idea that there is benefit in everything. And sometimes for people, it's really difficult to see the benefit in some difficult situation or some suffering that are going on. But really, if you put it in a bigger perspective, there is no suffering that stays forever, no? And usually after a difficult situation, people become more experienced or they become more strong or they are able really to bounce back in different contexts. And I think that it's linked a little bit with the next question, because one thing which I found very interesting in your book is this entire chapter in which you speak about this phenomenon of pain. And you say that every pain has really a message. So what is the message of pain?
Sure. If we see, in a simple observation of our life, nature doesn't give pain in a random fashion. If I'm sitting here, properly, sensibly, there is no pain. Only if I do something that is dangerous to myself, there will be pain. This is like almost a law. And so what we are seeing, say if I am to touch a knife, by mistake I touch something sharp, nature will give me pain. And the pain helps me to protect myself. If the pain was not there, I would harm myself. If I sit in the wrong posture, and I'm about to break the bone, nature will first give me pain. Pain is there to protect me. In the same way, there are all kinds of pains in the body, in our life. For example, pain of emotional pain, and that has a message. We were saying before, nature tells me don't create any bondages here. You remain free. You are a guest in this world. Have the attitude of a guest. And moment you come in that space, you discover there is no pain. So there is a very, very necessary, very useful message nature gives to us. And the message is the pain helps us to stay in the right position. The only other way to learn the message is wisdom. So when there is wisdom, then you are not you do not need to learn from pain. Like one mother tells me she got a son, the 4-year-old son, and she says she teaches this son how to use a matchstick, how to use a knife, how to use various things. She teaches him once, and she says, mother is telling me there are no accidents. He does it, he learns it, he does it. There are never accidents. He's so sensible. He doesn't try wrong things and get pain, and otherwise they have to learn through pain if you don't learn it through wisdom. So also here, we have the option. Nature is giving simple messages. I'll give you one example. One patient lady, she tells me during our history, going to medical history, she tells, oh, no, okay, well, I eat this, I eat this. And then she says, if I eat certain item, I think it is not good for me. My stomach doesn't feel totally happy when I eat it. But then I forget and my life goes on. Maybe it is not good for me. And I avoid it because of that. I like it, but because my stomach doesn't like it, I avoid it. Now she's very sensible. Many other people, we all get messages of this kind, but we ignore the message. We eat something else on top, and then that message is all finished. And on top, we may drink some wine on top, to dull our senses. And then you're challenging nature. You are not heard the message from nature. Nature will give a bigger message, bigger pain. It gives a little signal, but if I ignore the signal, it will give bigger signal. If I ignore that bigger signal, then nature will give a bigger pain, illness. And then they go to the doctors. Doctor gives a tablet. Message is still not understood. He is not making effort to understand the message. He is not changing himself. Then nature will give more severe illness. This is the way the mechanism of pain works. We all have the option to learn through wisdom. Learn at first signal or even before the signal. And that is where spirituality comes in.
You live in UK since many years, but your background, your family background is from India. I'm not sure if you were born in India yourself, but your family background is from Goa, if I'm not wrong, no?
Yeah, I was born in Goa.
Yeah. And being from India, you have this understanding of some of the meanings of some of the Hindi words which carry big meanings, let's say, meanings which are even beyond our capacity to translate them. And one of them, I believe, is Smriti. And you also dedicate a part of your book to the role of smriti, that we translate as awareness, to deal with the power of the collective delusion. Would you like to speak a little bit about this to us, about this role? What is smriti? What is exactly awareness? And how you can use it to deal with the collective delusion?
Sure. Yeah, such an important subject. Now, let me explain in little detail this function. We all have one function in our system, and that function is awareness. Just like we have function of thought, function of emotion, we have different feelings. In the same way, another function is awareness. Like, for example, you and me, we have awareness of place. You know which city you are in at this moment. I am aware of which city I am in and at this time, which country I am in. I'm not actively thinking of it, but that awareness is there in the background. Back of the mind, there is that awareness. In the same way, what happens in all of us, there is awareness of time. We know it is morning, afternoon, evening, night, and we are not thinking of it, but there is awareness. There is awareness of which family I come from, which is, you are not thinking of it, but awareness is there. In the same way, there is an awareness of who I am. We all got this function of awareness. But what is happening now, with this awareness of who I am is based on the body. So most of people will say, who am I? They might say, I'm male, I'm female, I'm this, and something connected with the physical world. The spiritual message tells us that that our truth about us is very different. When we see with the sight, spiritual sight, when we see in the dimension of truth, our idea of the self changes. And with that, the awareness of who I am, that also changes. That function is called smriti. Smriti is like the awareness of who I am at any particular moment. And this is what we have to question. I may like to bring in another metaphor, another example. When we are not seeing with the dimension of truth, when we are not seeing in the dimension of, of eternity, when we are not seeing with the spiritual sight and spiritual intellect, then as if the ant hill, ants, the ant world, it becomes your world. You are caught in the world of ants, and there is lots going on in the ant world. They got busy, full time busy. They got ideas of success, progress. When you use the spiritual side, you are discovering the sky. You are discovering the dimension beyond. You are discovering, the birds and the sky, and a completely different reality altogether. And the ant world is nice to look at, but you don't want to define yourself, limit yourself to the world of ants. That is what happens when you use a different dimension. Something similar here. When you have got this dimension of truth, then your idea of the true self is different. And your smriti is not based on the world of ants, trying to become a big ant. That is not your idea of the self, idea of who I am. you are seeing on a different scale. You are seeing the world of the eagles, and God exists at that level. God doesn't exist in the ant world. God, his first description is truth. He lives in truth. God lives with that, you know, the higher intellect. He lives with that unlimited, positioning. And from that position, he knows the extraordinary truth of everyone. He sees the sky. He knows they are all eagles and their immortality. He sees that. And in that context, you are seeing the world of the ant. It is a nice experience. World of ants is nice, but you don't want to define yourself in that at that level. You don't want to limit yourself in the world of ants.
It's an excellent analogy, to make it very, very clear. And I have one last question before inviting you to guide us in a little practice. And this last question is also from your book. I'm speaking about this book, In Search of Truth. And you speak about the Vinash forces. So would you like to explain to us what are exactly these Vinash forces, and mainly how can we be protected against them?
Sure. And I will give you an example first, and that will help you understand understand what we mean. In English, there is a saying, the pride comes before the fall. So first the pride comes, then the pride comes before the fall. What we are saying, pride is the cause of fall. That is what we are saying. That summarizes the Vinash force. The example I'm giving is one lady, and she is from the very special background, but every time she meets anyone, if she's introduced to anyone, she rushes to tell that she's wife of so and so. She want to tell this, introduce the husband, and I'm I'm the wife of that famous man. And what happens, that ego has become bigger, that I'm the wife of this famous man. She created the ego then. It is in the ant world, you are still in the ant level. And then what happens is the law, we were talking, the pain comes. If I'm in a wrong position, that brings pain. In this case, the pain comes in the form of misfortune. Ego is a wrong position, and that invites misfortune. To remove the ego, that misfortune comes just to remove the ego. And in this case, the husband leaves her and gets married to someone else and lives in the same village. So they are almost very close by. You almost see them sometime, most of the time. And so she says it is like the ideal scenario, worst thing that can happen to her. Because her whole idea of self was based on this image of the wife of the important person. And that whole thing disappears, because that very important person disappears. We say that this is like the law of nature. When you create a pride, it brings the fall. Pride comes before the fall. And we are very innocent in this area. When we are at the ant hill, we are caught in the ant world, then you end up creating ego based on the ant world. That is all you got. That's all you can see. So in different way, everyone is busy creating ego based upon position, possessions, place, people. You know, it can be on dog even. And people create ego based on anything. And as the ego gets bigger, the mechanism of misfortune starts to come to remove the ego. Fall comes. The word Vinash force that was used to describe this process of misfortune that comes. What we are saying there is we invite the misfortune. It doesn't come in a random fashion. It is not God who brings any misfortune. God brings punishment, but our inner position, inner wrong position, ego, that brings the misfortune. And it is in our hands to become free from the ego. Now, question how can we become free from the ego? As you asked at the beginning, we have to come in the truth. We have to use our intellect that can see the truth, see the big map, see the sky, see your true self. That is immensely beautiful. When you are coming in that true self, you are understanding the world of eagles. You are seeing the sky. And that self-respect is so big. In front of that, you don't want to go in the ant hill and claim that, look at me, I am the celebrity ant. That is not your, mission when you have seen the sky. When you have not seen the sky, to become a big ant in the ant hill may appear to be a big achievement for you. And ego cannot handle it. Ego gets bigger and bigger with that. One little thing, that becomes a huge excitement for the ego. And then the ego brings pain in Vinash forces. We said wisdom, if you use wisdom, you don't have to learn through pain.
You have been doing this practice for many years. And so I would like to invite you to guide us in a little practice to explore the truth and to explore the world of egos and the perspective of egos. If possible, can you do it?
Yeah. Very, very simple, and for a few minutes, let us use our spiritual side. Since we have it, and the truth is it is our truth, we have a right on it, and it's a game of a second. With the spiritual side, we are seeing the big, big map, and in front of that world beyond limits, we see the physical world as very, very small and very short. It appears like a small theater, drama theater. And in that drama theater, there's so many plots and so many things going on in that story. We can almost see the beginning and the end of every episode. And it is a story. There is nothing to complain there, nothing to worry about. Nothing matters. We are able to see the world beyond the story. And beyond the story is silence. There is no noise of the story. Right now, we are coming in the experience of that world beyond the story. Beyond the story is timelessness. Beyond the story is the world without limits. We see this world in an image of a sky. World of silence, stillness. In this sky is the true family. In the sky are the living stars. They are immortal. And this sky is eternal. In this world, there are no vibration of needing anything. They all are immortal without needing anything. So there are no vibrations of desire, no vibration of disappointment. World of silent joy and love. Such is this world. World of the true family, world of truth, world of the true father, world of the true self. This environment of truth helps the true self. He becomes conscious. And when he's conscious, he is able to see his existence, see clearly his existence. For him, it is normal to be like this living star. It is normal to be immortal. It is normal not to need anything. Normal to be happy always. Normal to be independent, to be free from the story. Right now, Prashant is talking in this story. At the same time, the true self understands his complete independence from the story. He is very clearly aware who he is. He is in the smriti that is based on truth. As we continue on our journey, we remember the immensely beautiful truth of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. It's such a wonderful opportunity to touch this state of fulfillment that comes from inside, and it has a special sweetness and kind of calmness, and it's a different vibration. And I'm sure as more as you dive into this experience, more you are able to kind of live with these feelings from inside, you know? So we have been mentioning about this book, no, In Search of Truth, which is, I think it's your last book, this one, no? But you have some other books as well. And we are
Yes.
going to put here in the description of the video different ways through which you can reach Dr. Prashant, because apart from the book, he also runs and conducts retreats and seminars, and nowadays many things online. And I'm sure you will be able to participate if you want to follow and to go deeper in this knowledge, in this wisdom, and especially in these feelings and in this practice. So many, many thanks for all your wisdom, for all this kind of insight that you brought to us. And for those who are watching us, if you found it interesting, you can subscribe in the channel, and you can also share this with other people that might be interested as well in this kind of wisdom and practice. So many thanks.